Hey world! In my last vegan related video, which was my first vegan related video, I spoke about why I decided to make the choice to become vegan. I'm now going to tell you how I managed to be and remain vegan. My bumpy journey. For most of my life, I've had a very predominantly meat-based omnivore-style diet, which had very little fruit, very little vegetables, mostly meats, mainly chicken. I've always been a very picky eater. But back in 2009, I was inspired by a vegetarian YouTuber, who I won't mention as he is not looked upon too favorably these days. But in any case, this person inspired me to become a vegetarian. Their arguments consisted of the amount of cruelty that is involved within animal slaughter. I gradually made a transition towards the vegetarian diet. And for the better part of 3 years, I remained vegetarian. The thing was, however, it wasn't a great version of the vegetarian diet. I was essentially taking my predominantly meat-based omnivore diet and doing a vegetarian version of it. So I was basically removing all of the meats and replacing it with mock meat. From a health point of view, I was eating pretty much the same way, just in a more cruelty-free way, if you get my meaning. It didn't entirely satisfy me, so I would fill myself up with a lot of junk foods, from chocolates to cookies to crisps and so on and so forth, to such an extent that I actually gained weight while I was on this version of the vegetarian diet. Me putting on extra weight is not a good look at all. I'm naturally thin, so when I put on extra weight, I have this sort of fat thin look where most of my body is slender, but then my stomach just sort of pouts out. It's not attractive, to say the least. So after 3 years of this junk food based vegetarian diet, I simply wasn't getting the nutrients I needed to feel nourished, and I went back to eating meat again. Back to the dark side. So going back to eating a predominantly meat-based omnivore diet, I felt I was then getting the nourishment I needed from the foods that I was eating at the time. And yes, I did feel bad about it, especially when taking into consideration the vast amount of cruelty and slaughter to these innocent creatures. I felt at the time I was making a tough choice for my own health. However, during that time I was not fully aware of the true extent of the health issues connected with the consumption of meat. So when I did go back to consuming meat products, I was still eating a lot of fast food, and I could not help but notice that I was seeing an even bigger increase in my weight. Even more so. So I tried to compensate by cutting back on the unhealthiest foods of my diet. For example, I would only have sugary junk food such as chocolate and cakes and treats like that just once a month. I replaced actual sugar with sugar alternatives such as stevia and other alternative sugars. The number one thing I did like about going back to meat was how convenient it was for me. I could pretty much go out to eat anywhere and be able to get whatever type of food I wanted at that time. Obviously, these days we have a lot more options for vegetarians and vegans when eating out in cafes and restaurants and so on and so forth. But during that time, even though the options were starting to become a little bit more commonplace, they were still quite restricted. However, there was always this nagging feeling at the back of my mind that I was supporting animal cruelty. Back on track. So after many years of consuming meat again, I had somehow managed to balance my diet with healthier options. So in 2017, I said to myself, well, my diet is reasonably healthy. I could probably go back to being a vegetarian again. So I did. I will admit I was still consuming processed foods, and I was consuming mock meats as a means to wean myself off animal products. After my second week of returning to vegetarianism, I had to reintroduce B12 supplements back into my daily routine. So I started experimenting with different recipes and adding different vegetables that I had not previously tried before to my daily meals. Sooner or later, I found myself eating and enjoying a wider variety of vegetables, and thus not needing to rely on mock meats as much because I had such a wide variety of vegetables, along with various different types of beans, from chickpeas to kidney beans to butter beans and so on and so forth. I began collecting a variety of vegetarian meals so I could do a lot more home cooked meals. So over the course of a year, I had developed the healthiest form of a vegetarian diet that I have ever had. I'll never go vegan. I'll never go vegan is what I used to say. Vegetarianism is as far as I go. Boy oh boy, how wrong was I. One day in the summer of 2018, it was a very hot day, and I decided to treat myself to a nice iced latte. Suffice to say, I did not get this iced latte from my usual cafe. I'm more partial to going to Starbucks. It was one of these outside coffee stands. Now, for some reason, the server decided to put cold milk on the bottom of the cup and hot steamed milk on the top, which to me is a very strange way to make an iced latte. The first thing I noticed about the drink was it didn't seem all that iced. It was very warm, and you had to constantly stir the thing around so that it was somewhat cold. It just didn't seem like an iced latte. More than anything, it just tasted strange. And about a day later, I felt even stranger. Something did not feel good at all. It was like as if the hot and the cold milk coagulated together and did a very funky job inside my stomach. So I had a stomach viral infection that lasted 2 months after that experience. I was going to have a parfait sometime after that experience, but the very thought of consuming dairy after experiencing that made me want to vomit. Of course, I was able to make a vegan version of the parfait, which I now make with my own homemade coconut granola. From that moment on, I was done with dairy. I was going full vegan, and me being me, I wanted to be as consistent as possible. I reached out to the vegan community on Reddit, got some great advice there, started watching some vegan YouTubers. Mike the Vegan was one of the first channels I came across, followed by That Vegan Couple and so many others. The whole solution. What I've discovered to be the best way to maintain, at least for me, a plant-based vegan diet is balance. Balance is key. If you search for vegan channels on YouTube, you will come across a lot of people who are promoting the whole foods plant-based diet, which is essentially restricting and removing processed foods, a lot of oils, refined sugars, and stuff like that, so that it is more wholesome food, more healthier food. In terms of diets, while I fully believe in balance in order to maintain that diet, I also don't believe in depriving ourselves from luxuries, which is why I think it's more than perfectly acceptable to have a cheat day once a week on the weekends and gorge ourselves on vegan burgers and the like. I think it's healthy to do that. I think we are setting ourselves up to unrealistic standards if we are 100% whole foods based 100% of the time. Yes, we can be 100% cruelty free 100% of the time, but that doesn't mean that we can't have the occasional vegan junk food once in a while. When it comes to the other areas of the vegan lifestyle, I am still educating myself on what are the best and most ethical choices for clothing and for beauty products, and how I can be as environmentally friendly as possible. And so everyone, that is how I am managing to maintain and remain vegan and what works best for me. Feel free to post your feedback down below in the comments area, or post me a video response via the video response tag. And until next time guys, freedom, peace and love. Thanks again for watching guys. If you like this video, please feel free to check out my previous videos on this channel, Keith's Universe, and on my main channel, Nerdy Keith.